career, you've had a lot of competition in that wide receiver room. How was a guy like Leak or Alex? How have they kind of responded to that? Some of you guys who are coming back. And
Yeah, responded very well. Off to a really good start, and particularly today, I thought both of them did some really good things, and I think that just their growth and maturity and experience in the offense is really paying dividends, and they know this is a great opportunity for them, and done a good job so far.
How's the battle for QB2 going right now?
Yeah, we're just spreading the reps around almost evenly, and between obviously Luke's getting the reps that he needs, and then between Trey and Ethan and even Carson's mixing in there quite a bit. So just like probably every spring practice across the country, talking about the quarterbacks today, a lot of really good things, a lot of things you got to get cleaned up. A constant teaching and learning process for all those guys. So it's been a good mix of competition, of new faces, of old faces, and they're getting along well. They're making each better. I've been pleased. With what they've done so far.
What has Davin brought to that tight end room?
Yeah, Davin is, he's relatively young, but also has got some experience under his belt, and had been previously very well coached. He's very intelligent, and so you can see he's played football and he understands schemes and how he fits and leverages and hat placements and route depths and all that stuff. So he's done a good job. He's a really solid player that really thrives of being mentally strong and a really smart football player, and that's what you got to be able to be at that position. We ask those guys to do a lot of different things, and he certainly has shown that he has the ability to do those.
How do you approach the freshmen in the spring and trying to figure out, does this affect how you think, can they help us, or does that more happen in preseason camp?
Well, I think, you got to remember that it's like their first time. It's the first time that they've done the red area. It's the first time they've done third down. It's the first time they've done the weight room. It's the first time they've learned where to eat, where to dress, so every day is a new day for an incoming freshman, that's new in the spring. The beauty of that is when you get to the fall, it's now their second time around, and that's really shifted football over the years. When guys started coming in early, that little window you had to get them ready was so small that it became really hard. It can be done. So the guys that are coming in, they get here in the summer now. Back in 20 years ago, they got there in August, and so it's become increasingly more efficient to get a younger player ready to help you during the fall. But for the guys that are here early, getting those first time things under their belt is just invaluable. And when it comes time to get to the fall, so they get a chance to get their feet wet, to learn the system, to show us what they got without a lot of pressure on them, and I think that's really a positive thing.
How's the second string offensive line kind of shaping up through the first four spring practices?
Yeah, I think it's going well. I like how we've I think we've increasingly had some new faces, obviously, and some guys that redshirted last year that are in the mix, and we got a lot of names to mention there, so I'm not going to get into that, but just holistically, I like where we're at as that group and the way they're working, and they're working together, and we're moving guys around a little bit and trying to experiment with depth and who can play guard and who can play tackle and who can snap and all those types of things, but so far so good.
I guess with the number of returning players and several of those guys that have been around for multiple years, does that allow you and the other offensive coaches to dial in more to your freshmen and the transfers?
Well, yeah, I don't know more, but I think there's at certain positions, there's more, obviously more established. There's certain positions that have more established returners than others, right? For instance, a receiver, we just have a handful of guys that really have played a lot. So there's an injection of a lot of new faces. And even for me, schematically, like I got to keep that in mind, because my quarterback, our running backs, our O-line, they're tight ends. A lot of those guys are used to the things we've done. And so there's a part of me that wants to go really aggressively and continue to build and as far as the install goes, but also we've got to get a lot better at the details. And so to answer your question directly, I don't think it has a huge impact on what we systematically try to do in the spring, try to teach, get better fundamentals. Here's the schemes. Don't get too much caught into trying to scheme the other side of the ball. We're just trying to get good at the fundamentals of the game. And so regardless of we have guys returning or not, that's just a real big emphasis for us. But it's nice to have that experience, because you can see that come to life on the field.
You said, when we talked to you the last time, you said something along the lines of that second spring for quarterbacks in particular is really important. What is it about that specifically that makes that such an important important thing to?
Well, I mean, you would think that, like we said earlier, the acclimatization that goes, especially for an early enrollee, right? You have a spring, then you have a summer, then you have a fall, and then basically this is now your second time through, and that's why it's critical. You've had those. As long as the system hasn't changed, which it hasn't, the terminology hasn't changed. I mean, it's grown, but so that second time through, the comfort level that you have should allow, whether you're at a quarterback or either position, your natural skill set to take over. And early on, when you're learning and being paralyzed mentally by a learning curve or something new, then that can really inhibit your natural skills and abilities from coming out. And so hopefully you get to the point after being through it that levels off and your natural abilities can take over.
Coach, you went from just a few running backs healthy a couple years ago for spring ball to basically a full stable. What's that dynamic like? What's it do for competition and development?
Yeah, we've got good depth there, and we play a lot of different backs. And it's going to be something we continue to do and hang our hat on because we've got a full complement of guys that have different skill sets that can help us. And so I think it just allows you to proceed as you would normally want to proceed without having to have any kind of asterisk, next to, a call or, a period that you can't functionally do, like a tackling circuit or whatever it may be. It just allows you to play with and coach with more freedom.
Obviously, Hudson has to adapt to new quarterback, new system, but what's he brought early to your room? What do you think he can bring to your group in the fall?
Yeah, I think all the new faces at receiver have really impressed me just from the time they've got here. Those three in particular, and just learning and the way they worked in the off season, and they've all had their moments and made plays already. And so I think you see in Hudson, you see a guy that is. Kind of like we've alluded to in the other parts of the conference here today, is just like experience. Like he's an experienced college football player, and he works and acts and trains and plays like a guy that had played high level football before, and there's a lot of value to that.
I guess with a full season of having like official assistant position coaches, because what differences have you noticed maybe in a year of maybe being able to do something?
Well, yeah, so the freedom that the bylaws allow us to do, as far as the non-restrictions on who can actually coach, as far as being feedback and instruction on the field, that frees up everybody, and everybody's getting a more attentive detail coaching, across the board through our whole collective team, of coaches, offense, defense, special teams. It's just more hands on deck. The more hands there are, the more eyes there are, the more feedback there is, the better the player becomes. And so I think a lot of those things, the freedom, the one-on-one communication coaching, there's always coaching going on constantly on the field, and that's a really good thing.
And how different is that from when those guys were analysts and off the field, and just the level of communication and knowledge?
Sure. It's the freedom there is significantly different than what it was years ago or even a few years ago, and so us taking advantage of that's been a huge part of growth and development for us. We've got a great, fantastic, support staff of coaches on all sides of the ball. I can speak for the guys on my side of the ball too directly, just the way they work hand in hand. Everybody's got that relationship. Whatever it looks like, a coach and another coach, mine in particular is me and Art and I, and so the way we work collectively together, I think influences our quarterbacks in a real positive way, because they're always getting some feedback from one of us, and I think that's a good thing. And that same what you say model is being applied across all position groups, and I think it's been a really positive thing.
Yes. So last year we talked to you so much about replacing Isaiah at this time of the year, and now you bring back Colin, Hank, and the slot. Like, what did those two show you last year, and what have they carried into the spring in terms of maybe a little bit more consistent? Not consistent.
Yeah, they're really good football players that just they maximize every ounce and inch of who they are. It's just like their movement skills are like just so really refined, and just they're really under control of their body and their awareness and their intelligence and their knowledge, and so they're just really complete players, and Colin has a little bit more flex, but Hank's played on the perimeter some too, and our slots play on the perimeter, and so we play a lot of guys in there, and we'll continue to play a lot of different guys in there, whether it's by actual alignment or by letter. Like we can manipulate whoever we wanted to get in there, And I think the more flexibility all of them have, the better off they are. But in particular, those two guys, like their awareness of the offense, their knowledge, their production, I think it's a safety net for Luke. I think they've got great rapport with each other, and for a staff, it's really a nice feeling to have guys there that you know you can count on to make plays consistently.
Coach Bielema mentioned two freshmen by name, Braden Trimble and Carson Boyd. What are you seeing from those two guys?
Well, usually if you see one of them, you see the other. You know, they're always together, and which is great. So they got a great off-the-field rapport, and that started in recruiting and has continued to only strengthen. And that Carson had probably his best day today, and just been really impressed with his knowledge and his desire to learn and his abilities, and those two have got a good connection. A lot of plays made between the two of them, and then Braden working with even some of the other quarterbacks as well. So two great young men from great families that just represent everything good about college football, the way they carry themselves, the way they work. They have humility and they have talent, and those are all good combinations.
Was Jordan's time going to tight end so far?
Yeah. So Jordan's done it, and he did some of that for us last year, so it wasn't like a completely foreign, move for him. He's so smart too. I mean, he's just got an incredible football intelligence. Even down the stretch last year, I mean, he's playing fullback. He's running, made a run in the bowl game that was big on first downs, and he's blocking, so he's, I'm sure every day is a new day for him, and in that regard, because he's doing a new skill set, and each scheme that we introduce that's unique to him. But man, he's just such a unselfish, intellectual, willing, and he's talented too, obviously. I mean, we gave him the ball last year in crunch time. I mean, there's a reason for that, because we trusted him and believed in who he is, and we're just trying to find a way to maximize that even more, and we appreciated him willingly embracing the kind of the transition. He's done a great job with it.
Very specifically in your room, when you don't have an opponent this spring to kind of prepare for, how do you handle guys in your room that might not learn the same way? Like, everybody's different. Luke Altmaier doesn't learn the same way as Carson Boyd.
They don't, and I would say this, like one of the things that I most like, or like the most, I should say, is in spring is just exactly what you're talking about. There's not a game, there's not an opponent. So the angst, the intensity, the urgency to play an opponent that you face during the week, like you're very direct in what you have to communicate and the time allotment that you have. Like it's bam, 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 bam. In the spring, there's a lot of meeting time that we're afforded through the NCAA, the total time we get during spring ball, which we use, that time is so you can kind of go at your own pace. So like my meeting, I have an hour meeting, and we'll take 10 or 15 minutes a day to learn something about football. Like we'll learn about a front identification or a coverage, and like that's fun for me because I can come in and say, hey, literally you could take at a quarterback and probably every position, I could take 80 plays of spring practice and really probably watch it thoroughly and turn it into an all-day project. And so you have to pick your battles about what you want to teach, what you want to correct, but also this is a time you don't get back to teach the building blocks of playing quarterback, right? I mean, it's just like math. You can't expect them to enroll in algebra in the fall if they don't know the basic math of playing quarterback, and that's what we're kind of doing right now. I don't know, I went down that path of an analogy of math and geometry and shapes and algebra and all that stuff. I wasn't very good at that stuff, but we use that process because you don't get that time back, and so I love it. And we're really intentional about the meeting room, and that meeting room time is more important or equally as important as what happens on the field.
With different personnel, what's the timeline to determine kind of the finishing touches on a new or different offense from last year? And how difficult is it to evaluate everything that you have with such a limited sample size?
Well, I think 15 practices is a lot of time. Everything's being evaluated, every one-on-one drill, individual. We watch it, we film and correct everything. So, so to answer your question, I think it's a lot of time. Number two, I don't think it's difficult because over the course of time, that always comes out in the wash. It may not in day one, it may not in day two, it may not even day three, but over the course of time, when you get through 15 practices, the guys that are ready to play and the guys that have earned the right to play, they usually rise up to that, and so they identify themselves for us, and so as far as we're always looking and hunting for new twists, new variations, new schemes, and new groupings that can help us win. So that's another fun part about the spring is to see who those guys are that emerge, and we've already started to see some of those guys take advantage of their opportunities.